Pokémon GO, that game that everyone, yeah, everyone, was playing way back in 2016. It introduced a fresh form of mobile gaming, a new augmented reality, a social phenomenon. It was fun, it was exciting, and it had the biggest launch in mobile game history. But then in 2021, for the first time since 2017, revenue dropped. And now developers Niantic find themselves at a crossroads, with fans wondering, are Pokémon GO's best days behind it? The idea for Pokémon GO was originally conceived way back in 2013 by Google, the Pokémon Company, Game Freak and Nintendo. It was called the Google Maps Pokémon Challenge, and by April 2014, it was ready for launch.
To find each and every one of the wild Pokémon.
Cool trailer, right? It was actually just a playable April Fool's prank, but people enjoyed it and Nintendo and the Pokémon Company took note. There was already an augmented reality game called Ingress that had been released 3 months earlier. So Nintendo and the Pokémon Company partnered with Ingress's developer Niantic and released Pokémon GO to the masses in July 2016. It was a game designed around catching Pokémon, powering them up, and battling other players' Pokémon for gym control. If you could keep your Pokémon in that gym, you'd get in-game coins. A simple premise, but a new way of playing. And it was massive.
Pokémon GO is raking in the big bucks since it came out a week ago.
But it's already got millions following their smartphones to the most random places.
I don't know who created Pokémon GO, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokémon go to the polls.
When Pokémon GO first came out, there was so much excitement around the games. Of course, you had all of these millions of people around the world that remembered Pokémon GO from the past and collecting the physical cards. And of course, there were other Pokémon games. So Pokémon GO with the AR and location-based capability was really exciting, and it delivered.
My first impression of the game was that it was a lot of fun, and it was fun to run around and catch Pokemons, go to the park after work and hang out with people and catch Pokemon. The hype around, like, evolved things spawning Charizards or Snorlaxes was pretty crazy.
It was the first game of that type, at least as far as I'd seen, so to see that many people playing it and shifting where people wanted to sit or where people wanted to be, you suddenly had places like a certain bench or like a water fountain was now really popular because that was where the shop was.
I just saw people posting like AR Pokemon pics in their bedroom and a Weedle here and a Charmander there, and I was like, you can go out and play Pokemon in the wild and catch stuff, and I was like, I don't know if that's the best idea for me to download that because I have an obsessive personality. I knew I was gonna get obsessed with this thing.
Players were meeting up with friends and strangers to catch their favourite little monsters and evolve them into their favourite big monsters. Parents were watching their kids go out to play video games. Some even joined them. Everyone was playing it. It was so big that small businesses were even getting in on Niantic's act.
People are using it for fitness and fun, and now the game is even helping businesses attract more customers.
Businesses are after a piece of that Pokémon GO pie, literally.
The Pokémon GO craze continues. Some local business owners are saying the cell phone game is unexpectedly having a positive impact on their business.
So yeah, we had the idea of doing just like a little drinks promo that was like, if you come in and show us your Team Instinct, you get discount, because it just seemed like a fun reward for, I guess, what looked like online as the fun group of people just playing it, like not in the competitive way.
The game also had numerous benefits, showing to improve mental health, reduce social anxiety, and it was even tricking people into exercising. But it wasn't all rosy. Critics were quick to point out that it was buggy.
It'll say go, and then it just exits me out of the battle every time.
And on a larger scale, led to some irresponsible behavior.
Neighbors in one metro community are complaining of trespassing because of the game.
Yo, look at this right now.
What are you... Why?
It wasn't a good look, but perhaps the game's biggest problem was a simple one: stagnation.
It was not very in-depth as far as functionality beyond just catching Pokemon, and there wasn't shinies in the game, there weren't really anything out of Kanto in the game, so after a certain amount of time, it kind of got a little bit stale.
But Niantic reacted swiftly, and just a month later overhauled the gym system. Out went gyms filled with the same overpowered Pokemon, And perhaps in the biggest update the game had seen before or since, raid battles were introduced, and with them came the legendaries.
Raid battles just put a point aspect in the game where a lot of trainers could go out and get into those places, right? So it totally morphed how you could find trainers, because now it was like, oh, well, there's this gym over here and oh, it's gonna hatch a Zapdos. I'm gonna go and do that Zapdos, and I know I'm gonna need other trainers to help me beat it.
Over the years, Niantic brought in quests, the buddy adventure system, friends, lucky trades, community days, gens 3 to 5, and after strong fan demand, players were finally given the chance to battle against each other.
So PvP was introduced in December 2018, and it was immediately my primary focus in the game.
Games are intrinsically engaging because they satisfy our 4 psychological needs. And no matter your age or cultural background, we all have these same 4 psychological needs. And those are our needs for a sense of mastery, relatedness, our need for autonomy, and we also have a psychological need for purpose. And all of us have those 4 psychological needs. And all 4 of those psychological needs have to be met in order for us to feel good.
I like playing games to be competitive. I like playing with other people, but also against other people in ways that challenge me. And up till that point in the game, there were kind of static challenges in kind of the gym system where it's like, oh, look, it's a bunch of Vaporeons. Do I have enough time to sit here and pound through this? But PvP added a very dynamic, skill-challenging way to interact with the game and other people.
So whether I'm having a battle in a game with an NPC or a real player, I can still get that sense of relatedness and maybe camaraderie. And so games like Pokémon GO that offer you that chance to play on your own or with other people are really good at satisfying that psychological need for relatedness.
The casual players did continue to abandon the game, but the hardcore ones, those who craved that engagement with other players, remained and were pumping more money into the game than they had before. Niantic had found that sweet spot. 2019 proved to be their most profitable year yet, and the game raked in almost $680 million. It was giving the players new content, it had learned from its mistakes, it had found its groove. But then, in early 2020, the world changed. As COVID spread and ravaged the world, governments were mandating by law that the population stay indoors. Social industries were crumbling, families couldn't visit loved ones, and in some countries, people faced prison time for simply roaming the streets. But that was Pokémon GO's whole thing. It encouraged players to go outside. So how was it going to face the challenge of a new world in which we were supposed to stay in and isolate?
For any game that encouraged socialization and was location-based, there was going to be some challenges, of course, through the pandemic. Some of those more serious than others, of course. How do we keep that social element that we know satisfies that psychological need for relatedness? How do we keep that?
Niantic now faced a very real possibility that their multi-billion-dollar goose would stop laying golden eggs. They had to adjust, so they ripped up the rulebook and made the game playable whilst players were isolating.
I think they did a phenomenal job at adapting the game. I think that they really accommodated for everybody's situation, and I think that it was probably one of the best things that actually happened to Pokemon GO from a efficiency standpoint and feature standpoint.
They were able to say, okay, well, how do we keep that social element that we know satisfies that psychological need for relatedness? How do we keep that, but of course keep people safe and at home? They introduced kind of at-home events, so you had to be at home and you could have a greater distance between you and another player, or indeed you and the Pokemon you were interacting with. So they were able to pivot.
Kind of had a little bit of pickup during COVID, just because they extended boundaries and added a lot of accessibility that you could reach places, and suddenly people that lived in more remote places could hit Pokestops.
It drove a different type of gameplay, a little bit more accessible from home. A lot of people were playing, a lot of people were interacting. You can now remote raid, you could play with your friends. I'm in Chicago, I'm playing with my buddy in Virginia now. Getting more items from the gyms and stops was excellent. I mean, I've never had such a full bag in my life. The incense was great, having the spawn per minute, giving you the ability that if you want to catch Pokemon from home. So having those things and being able to play a little bit more efficiently and still be able to manage the content, but at the same time still being able to maximize the gameplay was something that I really, really liked about what the situation kind of brought into Pokemon GO.
With all the uncertainty around coronavirus, they cancelled Community Day, but more than made up for it with the Community Day Play at Home edition a couple of months later. In a welcome change, GoFests became global events in a virtual format. Niantic had taken COVID head-on, listened to its fan base, and won.
Niantic making more money in 2020 than 2019 did not surprise me. Pokemon Go was a great thing that not only you could do from home now, not only that you could enjoy, and I think it brought a different level of connection that Pokemon Go would have never, maybe potentially, been able to reach in the gameplay style that they were pursuing.
Gen 6 was introduced to the game, as were some pretty striking legendaries and mythicals. The December Community Day was a huge and affordable success. Niantic were making money hand over fist. But then, 6 months later, in June 2021, Niantic started to roll back some of the COVID-era features. While some bonuses remained, incense effectiveness reverted to pre-pandemic levels, the frequency of gifts from buddy Pokemon was reduced, and, most significantly, Pokestop and gym interaction distances were reverted from 80 meters to just 40 meters. The first two were minor annoyances, but the third was a game changer, possibly even dangerous at the time, as COVID cases were surging worldwide and vaccines had yet to be rolled out. Niantic had learned all too quickly that if you take too much away from the Pogo community, they will bite the hand that feeds.
The 80 meters back down to the 40 meters, which actually caused us to have a massive Twitter upheaval. Trended #1 on Twitter.
The community, led by community leaders in some sense, have come together and said, hey, look, like, this change you made was not good. And here are the reasons why. And here's what we think you could do about it.
I actually reached out to all the influencers as soon as that happened. I was like, guys, like, we have to do something. If we all tweet this out at the exact same time with the exact same message, I think that we could cause enough of a stir that we could then create some change that wasn't being heard from content creators. There was a petition that was created, which then I created a second petition because there was a little bit of words in that kind of like didn't really so match up. So I think the original petition had, I think, around 200,000 signatures, which is quite significant. It shows how impactful this is.
The community was pushing back, and 2 months later, Niantic ceded and reverted the gym interaction to 80 meters. But was the damage already done? The player base had grown accustomed to the game in its mid-COVID state. Niantic's attempts to take it back to what it was pre-COVID were proving to be quite divisive.
With any digital platform, whether it's social media or a game, if you're introducing capabilities and then removing those, there's always that risk, of course, that you're going to disengage those people who love those features.
I saw a lot of people die out of being fans of Pokemon Go because it was kind of like, there's this thing where it feels like Niantic doesn't listen to the players. And I saw it in a lot of content creation and viewership at the time that kind of just frustrated people. They're like, I just need a break from all this things that feel like they're just like taking away the joys that I've really developed in this game. But at the same time, that gave us the opportunity to start having communication with Niantic at a different level that showed them like, oh my gosh, like these people are really serious about our game and that they can really, help us out, help them out.
Between 2020 and 2021, in line with previous years, the number of annual active users tumbled yet again. But for the first time since its second year, annual game revenue dropped. It continued into the first quarter of 2022 as revenue almost halved in comparison to the previous year. It also dipped from the 7th to the 11th highest grossing mobile game during that period. According to Google Trends, by the end of 2021, the term Pokemon Go was being searched less than it ever had been before. The rollbacks may have been a factor, but the more likely reason was something that was hitting players and content creators alike.
So the reason why I would think that the Pokemon Go revenue would have dropped in 2021 into 2022 was probably more than likely just because of a lot of the restrictions were being lifted. A lot of people were able to or needing to go back to work. A lot of, activities were being resumed. It's less about people being less interested in the game. There's just more things that people have to do and handle in their daily lives that has then taken them away from as much time and freedom to be able to play Pokemon Go more often.
So now, as COVID restrictions continue to ease and more people are vaccinated, Niantic have found themselves with yet another big decision to make. Will they keep the mechanics that made the game more playable during the height of the pandemic, or make a push to revert the game to what it was before COVID and encourage people to go outside again? So far, signs have very much pointed to the latter. Their one-liner for GoFest 2022 was #GetOutAndGo, with a trailer that literally saw players getting up off their bums and heading outside. The price for remote raid passes has gone up, and they're no longer being included in one-coin boxes. These, alongside the $15 cost for 2022's GoFest, has led to more discontent amongst certain quarters. However, they are finally introducing a companion app, Campfire, which lets us get organised for raids and events, discover new locations and share content with other players, something that the community had been yearning for years, or at least it was before the COVID iteration of the game. Extra bonuses, including XL candies and Mega Energy, are being awarded for completing local raid battles. Fundamentally, Pokemon Go is a game that requires movement, so can Niantic really be blamed for sticking to their principles?
As the developer of the game, they aren't beholden to do whatever the community wants. Also, it's not in their best interest to ignore the community, because those are the people that are playing their game and paying them. So they have to keep walking that balance between, like, this is our game and this is what we want our game to be like and how we envision people playing it.
Niantic, as a core company, they always want people to get out and explore. And so that's going to be one of the things that's going to underlie in all of their decisions. I don't think that it's something that's just derived around money. They've always done, in my opinion, a pretty good job at trying to encourage people to get out, to explore. At the core of their heart, it feels like, they really just want people to get out and not be so complacent and play from home as much.
So that's where we find ourselves now. And back to the original question, are Pokemon Go's best days behind it? Short answer, it's in Niantic's court. The key to longevity is treading that line between retention and evolution. At its very core, Pokemon Go is about discovery, and Niantic have to keep that sense of exploration fresh for old and new players alike.
I think if Pokemon Go wants to grow, I think they really do need to focus on not just the new players who haven't played Pokemon Go before, but actually people who are completely new to the Pokemon world, and give them those 4 game values of knowledge value, self-discovery value, narrative value, and transcendent value to keep them engaged in the game and allow them to experience that love that existing players have.
You're going to have some attrition over time, and you want to keep attracting new people. Also, like, infinite growth is not possible. Definitely some aspects of the game are waning a little bit, but then you'll see the booms when something that people really care about comes out. I think that a lot of people have kind of fallen into patterns of how they interact with the game now based on what their priorities are. And there's a little less like everyone throwing themselves at everything. So I imagine, there's slightly less total excitement, but I still see a lot of excitement for people around the things that are most important to them.
It's literally just one decision away, or one implementation of the right thing, or doing the right thing, or making the right decision, or bringing back something that was really important and being like, hey, we're gonna address this. We've seen you guys talk. We really want to make this game about the community, and we understand that this is really important to you guys. And I think that it's always the companies that hear people the most, invest the most money, and are willing to do the most for their game are always the companies that are going to succeed the most.
The jury is still out on whether Niantic is one of those companies, but if they continue to evolve Pokemon Go, with the help of their community, of course, whilst maintaining their core principle of exploration, they just might be.